National football team coach Michael Weiß has been cited for his work with the Philippine Azkals by the German Football Ambassador 2013, elevating him in an elite group of high-profile German coaches from all over the world.
It is about fine-tuning, it is about
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, a very warm welcome to the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue a theme of interviews. And we have the former head coach of Mongolia national team, Mr. Michael Weiß, with us today. So he has not only managed the Mongolian national team, he has also managed the Philippines national team. And he has also managed in Rwanda, China, Japan, to name a few. And so what do we do next? So I don't want to waste much of your time. So I would like to get straight into the interview, and I would like to first thank Michael Weiß for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing during this pandemic period?
Yeah, hello, super. I mean, we talked the other days several times. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm very honored to be part of this exclusive circle of people you're interviewing, and I saw several of your interviews, and I was pleased, so it was easy for me to accept the invitation. Right now, I'm in Japan with my family. I live here since 6 years in Fukuoka in the south. It's a beautiful city surrounded by mountains and even more a beautiful ocean. I spend time with my family, which I didn't have in the last 10-15 years almost. So I get to know my family much better, which is actually ironic in a way, but I'm happy about it, and I take this time also to reload my batteries.
So definitely it has been a break, a very unfortunate break for everyone, and definitely it has recharged many of them's batteries. So we'll move on to your career, and could you tell us something about yourself, like how you started, where did you start, and how was it?
Yeah, well, going back to my youth, already in a very young age, I'm now 55, unfortunately, but I started football with 8 years, so that's 47 years in football. And I went to play then in the age of 15, 16 for the Kaiserslautern, FC Kaiserslautern youth team, which is a very strong team in my area. I come from this area. It's a very traditional club, several times champion of the Bundesliga, and unfortunately now not in such a good state, but maybe we talk about that later. After finishing high school, I went to become a sports science student in the University of Mainz. Studied several years until I obtained my Master of Science of Sports. At the same time, I played soccer in the third league, which is almost, you can call it professional league now. In Germany, it's a professional league. And it was a tough program all these years, because in the morning I had studies in sports, I had athletics and swimming and volleyball, basketball, all these games, football included, as my master's theme. And then at the age of 32, I started with my first professional stint in Japan.
So definitely one thing that for me stands out is you have done, you are a sports science student, you have completed, and of course it's heavily implemented in Europe and maybe in America, where you have the infrastructure. How is sports science in Asia? Like you have managed in a lot of places in Asia. Do they actually implement sports science in football right now?
Big time. Even let me go back 10-15 years when we were coaching in Kyoto Sanga. It was at the beginning of the new century in 2000, 2001. I cannot say we were giving too much attention about sports science. We were just relying on our experience, and we were doing sometimes some physical tests, but at the beginning of the season, maybe in the half season, but that was it. But now with the GPS and with all catapult and all these things, for my personal opinion, the focus is a little bit too much on it. The focus is a little bit too much on these physical attention, which is of course important, and for highest level, it is very important, because when you have many games, for example, now in the Bundesliga or in the Premier League, every third day you have a game. If you make a hard training in between the games, it's impossible. You will have 100% many injuries. So this is why they need to direct the training very, very carefully. This is, I understand, but on the level in Asia, for example, in Mongolia or in Philippines, I think it's a little bit exaggerated sometimes, because what you're going to do in a national team, you have 3 days, 4 days training. So you don't, anyway, most of the players will be tired from their games in the clubs. Mostly you do tactical training. So there is definitely a change in the attention or in the focus of the sports science, which I think is good, but it's only one part of the game.
So of course, I'll just have a follow through question to that. And like you have, like you said, Japan is, of course, in terms of infrastructure, it is one of the best in, like it can rival many countries all across the world. But like somewhere like Mongolia or Philippines or even Rwanda, where you were there, did you have the infrastructure, like to implement whatever you knew about sports science, something like maybe about GPS? Was it available?
No, because you have to see the time frame. We are talking of Rwanda. I was in Rwanda 4 years, from 2007, starting from 2007 until 2011. And to give you a small example, when I came there, they had a national stadium, Amahoro Stadium in Kigali, in the capital, a nice grass pitch. Difficult to maintain. They didn't know how to use the grass properly, how to treat it properly. Sometimes they put too much pesticides on it, and the grass was diminished, it was gone. And the other time they put too much water and you had too many water holes. There was a lack of knowledge in every part of the game. And then obviously the infrastructure was not there. There were no specialists. And I'm talking of 13 years ago. I'm talking of no artificial pitches. When I was there in 2007, there was no artificial pitch. In 2008, I remember like yesterday, I saw next to the federation, they built the first artificial pitch. So now listen, Rwanda, East Africa, from 2007 until now, I think at the least they have 15 to 20 artificial pitches in a span of 10, 15 years. Now I must say, Rwanda is now really like a model country in Africa. It's like a shooting star, I can say. I was there in the beginning to see this development, but still with the nature, with not so many cars, and people not so much focused on making business. It was more rural, it was more countryside-like. Now it's a totally different thing. They call it the Singapore of Africa. So the facilities and the training conditions were poor, I must say. But this is why they brought me there in that time, and I think we did a good job. I think we can discuss that a little bit later more.
Definitely. So I'll get back right in the beginning. You did your sports science, and did you always have an idea that you will get into management?
Honestly, when I started the science studies and when I played still football, we were like kids, even I was 23, 24 years old. At that time, it was a young age. Nowadays, coaches like in Germany, Nagelsmann or others, they start coaching in the Bundesliga even with 28, 29, 30 years old. I could never imagine. I mean, probably, for example, Jürgen Klopp, the manager of Liverpool, everybody knows him. We made the pro license together in Cologne in 2004 for a short period. And he would also never have imagined to coach in a young age. I mean, he was an exception at that time. He was more like a player coach, 31 or 32 years he started, but that was really, really very rare, very exceptional at that time. So most of the managers, they thought, okay, I need a little bit distance from playing and I need to play as long as I can. So if they started early in the higher leagues, it was maybe around 38, 40 years, but now it's different. Many things have changed a lot. So for myself, I did not think too deeply about managing, but of course, studying sports science, becoming a sports teacher on a high level, and making my badges for the football licenses, starting with the B license in 1995, and then in 1999 the A, and then in 2004 the pro license. So every step by step, I took it one step at a time. I didn't rush. And then, of course, I found this opportunity to go to Japan. And I thought at that time in 1996, 1997, that was a good starting point. So I took that opportunity and then I grew into coaching. I started with goalkeeper and physical coaching, and more I pick up also the studies for the field players. I studied a lot from people. I worked with very good people, with very experienced people, and I could learn a lot. So I grew more and more in the position where I thought, okay, I want to do this myself. And then it happened, you know, I was assistant coach in China with Mr. Krautsoon until 2005-06, and then I started.
So definitely, like you touched upon a topic that is your time in Japan. So I wanted to touch on that topic during your phase when you were in Japan. You started your coaching career in Japan with a high school team or a college team, as many of them may say, and then you went on to nourish top players in the J League. Could you tell us something more about how your time was in Japan, back then?
Wow, that is a very interesting topic. I remember how I found, maybe I want to start how I found the opportunity. I was sitting in the living room with my mother at that time, and we have a sports magazine in Germany. It's called Kicker Sports Magazine. It's like everybody will read it. Everybody who knows football at that time was reading Kicker Sports Magazine. So all the news about first league, second league, third league, fourth league even. They made reports about coaches, about players, about clubs. So it was like I needed to buy it every Monday and Thursday. So I study, and then there was a small ad, very small, almost you couldn't see it. Sports exchange advisor. We are looking for sports exchange advisors. Goalkeeper physical coaching for a prefecture in the south of Japan. I thought, wow, this is really it. Like in Germany, passt wie die Faust aufs Auge, It fit totally to what I had done. So I applied, and they took me immediately. Even though I had some reservations, at that time, to go to Japan or to go to Russia, China, these were countries it was like something, how can I say, not scary, but it was like not like today, because today you go in the internet, if you go to Fukuoka, you watch 10 videos. When you come to Fukuoka, already you know Fukuoka. But at the time I came there was nothing like that. There was hardly internet. There was the start of the internet. Email we started at that time, I remember, and it was a little bit adventurous, I would say. Okay, I go there in April 1997, April, May, something like this. And wow, it was a culture shock. It was an absolute culture shock, starting from the food, eating raw fish, starting from the drinking parties, where you drink until you die, and starting to sit on the floor, no communication, no Japanese at all. It was tough, I must say. Of course, you become homesick. Even I was already 32 at that time. But then I grew into the job. Of course, daily work. I had to move a lot. I was tired at the evening, and my worker colleagues, they took me out. They showed me in the area. It was a countryside area, so it was looking back, of course, a fantastic time in your life. At the time when you go through these things, you think sometimes, I'm homesick. I miss my girlfriend. I miss my family. This and my friends. But imagine for a boy like where I came from to go in a big, comparatively big job like this in Japan. Now looking back, it was a perfect start for me to go into a career. And the person I was working with there was a very famous high school coach, but he was famous because he was a strict, authoritarian person and very, very tough with the kids, sometimes even beat them, when they didn't do what he said. Very strict, every day 4 or 5 hours training and no mercy. But he produced a lot of players, lots of J-League players. And I was his right hand, I was helping him, I was supporting him, I was training. Every morning at 6 o'clock, I went to the dormitory and wake up the players. 6 o'clock, bim, bim, bim. All the players come out of the bed like this, very tired, go into their shoes, walk 2 minutes, go to the dormitory, go to the gym, and we make 1 hour technical training, passing. So they had a lot of repetitions and they had a lot of intensive training, were top fit. So it was really like, you could say pro. It was actually, the Kunimi High School was 3 times champion all over Japan. So many young boys in the age of 10, 11, 12, even they went to the junior high school there. They had also a junior high school. I worked only for the high school. The junior high school from 12 to 15, and from 15 to 18 is a high school. And we had, for example, Yoshito Okubo. I don't know if you heard this name. Yoshito Okubo is the #1 striker in Japan ever. The one who scored the most goals in the J-League. He's born in 82, now 37, 38 years old, almost finished football. And I was helping and supporting at that time to have him grow up. Amongst others, there's so many who went to the J-League. From my period. I was there for 2 years, and it was also good in terms of getting connections with the people in the J-League, and we went to many games. We went to Oita, we went to Hiroshima, Fukuoka, all these cities in the south, even Tokyo, Osaka. So I've seen a lot in Japan, and it was, I must say, looking back, dream time, I can say. I mean, Japan is an amazing country. I'm gifted. I'm very happy to be able to live here. Other people go here for a trip. I live here. I have all the chances to explore. Now that I have a little bit more time, I really see how beautiful and strong Japan is. So, of course, the biggest gift I got from this time, I met my wife at the end of my stay in April 1999. Yeah, and we've been together since then, 21 years old. And that was the biggest gift.
So, from the high school, then you went to a full professional team in Kyoto. How was the transition for you?
Well, that was a funny story because as I told you already before, in Kunimi, it was time to make good connections and it was time to meet many people. And I remember I was talking to one guy in the school, a coach, and he said, you know what, there in Yokohama Flügels, there is a German coach. Yokohama is in Tokyo, in Kanagawa Ken, and I said, a German coach? Who is that? Yes, his name is Gerd Engels. I said, I don't know Gerd Engels. Can you give me the number? It was in 1998. And then he gave me the number. I called Gerd, and Gerd was at that time head coach of Yokohama Flügels, which was a very popular team. And hey, super, you are here in Japan and blah, blah, blah. And, very cool guy, very nice guy, and very experienced, already 4 or 5 years in Japan. He said, when can you come and when can we meet? And then I had a tournament in 1998 in Iwate-ken, which is north of Tokyo. And at the time, he had some off-season. He said, come to Yokohama and ask your high school teacher and the people there to give you permission. We meet in Yokohama and then we go together to Iwate. And that's what we did. So it was like there was chemistry there. We clicked, you know. And it was actually cute. We went to sing karaoke, we made some parties, and we had a super time. And he was also there drinking with me, with the high school teachers, I remember vividly. And we become like friends, yeah. So I went back to Germany in 1999. In August, September, I made my A license in Leipzig, which was a powerhouse in football education at that time, which was also a super experience, I must say. And then in 2000, we still had contact. I was in contact with Gerd. I was in America in 2000 for 3-4 months to have soccer camps and, you know, to have more education myself, and experience was also very interesting. And end of the year, 2000, we met in Germany, and he didn't know what he would do. So he got the job as a head coach in Kyoto, and it was like an overnight. He said, Mike, I was in Japan to visit my wife. Mike, you must come to Kyoto. You meet the manager, and you tell him this and this and this and this, and this is your job. And Kunimi, because the high school, everybody knew. So I went to Kyoto myself with a suit, necktie. I looked very smart. I talked with the manager, and he made an offer, and I thought, is this true? So it was an offer financially. It was amazing at that time. I thought, I'm gonna faint, you know. It was really fantastic. So I said, okay, I will take the offer. I want to work for your club, and I want to work with Gerd and with the coaching staff. I think we can do a very good job. So yeah, then Gerd came in January, February. We planned everything, and then from there we started the big project, Kyoto Sangha.
So, talking about the league you were involved in, how professional or what was the quality of the league that time when you were there?
It was like coming back to Japan again. You know, Japan is very professional in the way that you get everything what you want. For example, training materials at that time. We for example, for the physical training, we used an apparatus. It's called in Germany Schlitten, slide. You know, you take heavy weights on your back and you put it around your waist, and then you have speed training with additional weight. It was like, I wouldn't say revolutionary at the beginning of 2000, but it was very new. And we invited a physical coach from Germany who brought us through the first period. So Gerd was kind of a really innovative type and a very creative coach with another assistant from Germany also. So we got everything what we want, and we made a very good training plan and program for the players. And the rest is history, I can say. We become champions in the second league in 2001. And then in 2002, we were here for the World Cup, for the period of the World Cup, Korea, Japan, which of course itself was a fantastic experience. And we were, at that time in 2002, the best team ever, coming from the promotion of the second league in the J1. Yeah, we become 5th place. And I must say the level was really getting very good, even though it was only 10 years professional Japan, but it got better and better and better. Coming many foreign coaches from Brazil, from Yugoslavia, from Germany was popular at that time. And all the foreigners brought the knowledge of football in details. And the Japanese at that time, I mean, still until today, very disciplined people. If you say something, there is no questioning or something. They follow what you say. Yeah, and at that time, particularly the people, they saw the success that Gerd and his staff, myself included, brought. So it was like bringing our philosophy, which was actually bound for success. It was clear. And I took a lot from these things at that time, still into the periods going to Rwanda, Philippines, and Mongolia. You know, I worked in these three places for a long, long time, because football is a trendy thing. People follow trends, young coaches, they follow Guardiola, they follow Klopp, but football is the same. And you have to find your own philosophy. You have to find your own way managing things. You have to find your own way creating your own exercises, not looking from the book. You know, you have to create a relationship with the players. You have to create a feeling, a conscience of professionalism, not smoking, not drinking, sleeping enough, taking care of your body, having additional training. And all these things, we were like a trendsetter at that time. You know, it was like, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but for sure in Kyoto, it was the best period Kyoto ever had. So the level, of course, 15 years ago and until now, the level is different. There is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of focus on the physical training, much more tactical studies, and through the internet and through the sharing of the knowledge, people copy a lot without going through the experience themselves, you know. But you cannot copy something, copy paste. It doesn't work. You have to live day by day. You have to know when to apply this training, how to treat this player, and this only comes with experience. So coming back to your question, the Kyoto time and the level in the J League at that time already was good, but we were like, the J League started in 1993. It was quite young. We were in a period where Japanese were going to the full professionalism, meaning they learned a lot from the foreigners. They themselves, the Japanese, were very eager to go to Germany, to go to France, to go to Holland, Netherlands, to study. And I think you could see that already in the World Cup in 2010, 14 and 18. You could see the development of Japan, and many players were taking the opportunity to go overseas, which was the most important thing, because the level in Japan only was not enough in order to make the national team strong. This came when Nakata and Shunsuke Nakamura and later on Keisuke Honda, Okubo, Daisuke Matsui, the ones I remember, and now we have all 11 starters. I played against Japan last October with Mongolia in a World Cup qualifier match. Every starting member played overseas, and all of them starting members. So this is the development of Japan. I must say, I respect that a lot.
So definitely, so Japan has been very influential in your life and your career, but after Japan, you moved to China, you know, where you were responsible for building the Olympic team, and you also had your first child when you were in China. How was your time in China?
Well, I have to start a little bit from the beginnings. I got a call from the German FA at that time, and I was applying for the exams for the professional coaching license. In Germany, you have to apply to get into a test with many other peoples in order to get a slot in the professional coaching license in Cologne. Takes 8 months, 9 months. The coaching license, the pro license, takes 8-9 months, and you make a test. So I was in that period. I was going to Germany. We had finished our job in Kyoto at the end of 2003, and they let me go to make this test in November, December. So I was fortunate enough to get a slot in the pro license, which for a person like me at that time was almost impossible. But people sometimes in the coaching executive committee, on the people who make the decisions, which people can enter the coaching license, they very much respected my enthusiasm and my overseas experience. And they saw me maybe in that time that I can bring the German philosophy into foreign countries. So they gave me a chance. I was very happy because, again, for somebody like me who wasn't a pro, normally only pros were allowed to enter in that professional coaching license course. So I was in contact with the German FA, with the head of international relations, Markus Weidner, a good friend of mine, a good colleague of mine. And he said, hey, Michael, here, I have a request from a city in Germany. City is Bad Kissingen. It's not far away from Nuremberg. I don't know if you heard about Nuremberg. Nuremberg is also a big traditional club. I said, okay, what's up? What's going on there? Yeah, they want to make a very interesting project. They want to invite the under 20, which would be the Olympic team for the 2008 Beijing Games. And they want to invite them. They want to let them train in a spa town, very beautiful place, with all the best training possibilities and infrastructure that you could imagine. Really good. Everything paid from Germany, and they wanted to make business with the Chinese at that time. So there was a contact from a local businessman who connected the CFA, China Football Association, with the DFB, with the Deutscher Fußballbund, German FA. And they were looking for candidates to take over the team. I said, look, I'm not experienced enough, and I'm now in the way to make my pro license. But why don't you take this coach who was internationally very renowned and experienced? His name is Eckhard Krautzun. He was a coach who managed in 2002 to bring Tunisia to the World Cup. Unfortunately, he got sacked before the World Cup. But I had a good relationship with him in 2002, 3, and 4. And I said, Markus, take him, and I can enter into the stuff. So that's how it happened. And then we made the contract in the beginning of 2004. And I came smoothly from Kyoto directly into the Olympic project for the Chinese FA.
So, after that, you were also involved, in the China job. You also had your first child. How special, do you have a special place in your heart for the Chinese job?
Well, let me dig a little bit deeper. Coming to the year 2004, which was probably the hardest year, one of the hardest years in my life, because we started the project in Bad Kissingen. And my wife was pregnant with my first daughter, Lisa, who is now 16 years almost. And I was making the pro license at the same time in 2004. And I remember we went to China very often. We went, for example, to Malaysia in October. And at the same time, the course was running in Cologne. So I moved my family to Cologne. My wife, she was pregnant. And in certain intervals, every 2-3 months, I needed to go to China. We needed to check and scout all the players all over the country. We stayed 4, 5, 6 weeks. I came back, continue my course. Then again in October, I needed to go to Malaysia to attend the under-20 Asian qualifiers. And it was very, very, how can I say, generous from Mr. Rutemöller. Erich Rutemöller was my mentor and was my coach educator in the course. And he knew Eckhard Krautzun very well, and they were very well connected with the German FA. So I missed parts of the course, but at the same time I did training on the job. I was seeing the reality of building up a team, scouting, all these things, what we learned in theory, I put it already in practice. So it was a stressful time. It was a hard time. My wife, she had some problems in the pregnancy. While I wasn't there, she needed to be admitted to the hospital in Cologne. So it was actually quite a little bit hard, I must say, looking back. But you know, when you're in the middle of things, when things are running, when things are rolling, you have no time to think much. So I passed everything, and we moved on with the Chinese very, very well. We managed to scout many good players, and started to build a very strong team in 2004-05 already. Yeah. So coming back to my personal private situation, Lisa was born in August 16. Then I think in October already I needed to go to Malaysia. Then I finished my license in November, and then in December we went to Argentina with the under 20 team. We stayed 4 weeks in Argentina over the New Year period, and it was actually, there was a tsunami somewhere in Indonesia at that time in 2004, strong in Banda Aceh. I don't know if you remember. I remember at that day we were departing with the Chinese team to River Plate, to Argentina. So it was turbulent time, it was a stressful time, but it was a time full of experience and full of impressions. I mean, Argentina, imagine to come to Argentina. I was having an internship at the same time during our camp with River Plate. I met Daniel Passarella, who was once the captain of a World Cup team, I think in 1978. So for the Chinese, for us, for me as a coach, as an assistant from Mr. Krautzum, it was an amazing experience. And it was tough, yes, but of course it's our job, you know. We needed to do that, and we were quite successful in that.
So you know, like
maybe I can continue with the beginning of the year 2005. We had at the beginning of 2005. We had the big Chinese delegation in Bad Kissingen in the spa town. We continued our training, and they decided to give us the under 20 team. The under 20 team had qualified for the World Cup in the Netherlands in 2005, and we took over this team, and we made some adjustments. We brought a lot of new players that we scouted in the age groups, in the respective age groups. Even we were turning to some younger players who we wanted to see in the World Cup, and getting them prepared for the 2008 Olympics, because our contract was a 3-4 years contract until 2008. So we were sure that we would continue with the team, and we prepared the team as best as we could, and went to the World Cup in June in 2005 in the Netherlands. And it was a sensational tournament, the best tournament ever China had played on World Cup level in a youth group, and even for the national team. We won all the games in the first round against Turkey, Uzbekistan, and Panama. We were first in the group. Every game, I don't know, 100 millions of people in China were watching the game. It was like hysteria, you know. If a country like China is all of a sudden getting exposure on a World Cup level, particularly in the youth, they were, you know, China very proud, very nation-oriented, and it was amazing. So we went to the best 16 and played against Germany. Imagine, we played Germany. Mario Gomez, René Adler, many players who became national team players. And unfortunately, we lost 3-2. It was 2-2 until 88 minute, and in the 90th minute, Germany scored the 3-2. So we were a little bit unlucky to lose and to go out of the tournament, but we got a lot of recognition. We were celebrated, and Chinese were very proud. Yeah. Then we took a little break, and we had an invitation then in July, August to meet the new president of the CFA. The new president of the CFA came from the swimming association, so he didn't know football. And the first thing, you know what he did? He fired Mr. Krautzen and me. He released us of our duties because, I don't know, it was their way. We were so successful and they didn't let us continue with the under 20 or with the Olympic team, unfortunately. So we still had a running contract for another year, which was supposed to be renewed. And actually we got into a fight with the city for payments and all these things. So we continued with clubs and with coaches education, and we had people coming from China. We showed them around Germany. We still did a good job for China, but we were not in this big situation anymore where we could really take the team. So that was the China thing, actually.
So like after China, where you feel you are unfairly removed from the job, and after that you were appointed the technical director of Rwanda. Rwanda is a very uncharted place. Even now I do not know much about Rwanda, and back then I think it was very scary for you to go there. Could you share with us how was your time at Rwanda?
Coming back from the beginnings, I got a request at the end 2006, beginning 2007. If I could see myself going to Rwanda as a technical director and helping to build up the youth and helping to make coach education, women's football, all the pillars, the different pillars in a federation as a technical director. And I said, okay, why not? I mean, I have never been there, but of course you have to be on the job. And in football, it's not, you can select the jobs. You must go where you're called. So people call you, and when they call you, you can say yes, you can say no. So I said yes, because it was a project in a cooperation with the German FA, with the German Foreign Ministry, and the Olympic Sports Council, and the Rwanda FA. So we had a perfect backup. We had a lot of resources financially from the German side, because Rwanda would never be possible to pay these things. So I said, okay, I will do it. So I went there in March, April 2007, and I've never been in a black country. I mean, black is not meaning negatively, but I've never been there, honestly. I've been in Tunisia, I've been in Africa, and I've been to Morocco, but for a holiday, but I've never been in black Africa. So it is different, of course. For a black person, the first time to go to Europe is also different, so you have to get used to. And I was there with a group of people in March, April for introduction. We were traveling around the country, and there was basically nothing. There was basically nothing. There was, in 1994, they had a big war between two tribes, the Hutus and the Tutsis. It was one of the biggest genocides in the history of manhood. Many people died, and they were still suffering, and they were using football as a tool to have the two groups reconciled, to get them together. So I was also like a kind of in a way, if you may say, a social worker. Okay, with the backup of the German FA and with the federation of one state, particularly the Football Association of Rhineland, we were having a lot of coaching courses in Germany. We were having a lot of, for Rwandese, as a part of international coaching programs. We were having training camps with the under 17, 2-3 times a year, and nurturing the talents, from not really grassroots level, but from a young age. Even in Africa, you never know which age they have, because they are adjusting the age as it is needed for the age groups. At that time, it was like that. Now it's different because they make different tests, and they can determine if a player is younger or older. They can do that now. And yes, I started work and had 4 or 5 support coaching staff from Germany who were together with me running coaches education programs. So it was like 2-3 times a year they came for 4 weeks, and we went through all the country. We were selecting coaches. The German FA and the German Foreign Ministry paid for that. So Rwanda was not in the situation to pay for that because they could not. So we were doing really grassroots coaching development and many things in that respect. At the same time, I started to educate 4 young boys, which I selected after careful interviewing, maybe 30-40 candidates. I decided on 5 boys who were, I called them, they were like my assistants, but we called them provincial coordinators. So we put 1 boy in the north, we put 1 boy in the south, east and west. And Rwanda is not a very big country. In Rwanda, if you go from the capital, Kigali, which is in the center, you go to the east in 1 hour, 2 hours, you go to the west in 2 hours, south 2-3 hours, and north 4-5 hours. So it's all kind of comparatively easy to access. And I think that was a smart move from our side, because these boys, they went from B license, from C license, B license, A license, and they were doing training on the job. They were footballers. They were good footballers, but not very excellent. But they were all character-wise very strong and good, and did a good job. They bring us the newest talents. They said, "Coach, come to Musanze. I have 2-3 boys. We make some training and scouting project. You come there and you check all the boys and girls, and then put them in a national team or make selection groups." So it was a running program for 4 years. So I must say this was a very successful project from A to Z, starting with the provincial coordinators. By the way, all of them now are in the national team. One Eastern provincial coordinator is the national team coach, Vincent Mashami now. And Sosten Habimana, who was in the south, is his assistant. So they all are, until this day, very thankful to our project at that time. So I think it was like a model project for the corporations of the German FA with foreign countries, mostly Africa, Asian countries, where they sent experts to develop the grassroots and to develop the football in itself. I think Rwanda was an excellent, perfect model for relationships of Germany with developing countries. Okay, let's go quickly to the youth development. Of course, it was one big part for me was to develop players from a younger age. So I always was looking 14, 15, 16-year-old boys all over south, east, north, west. And we were getting good groups together for the under-17, where I was the head coach. And one of these or 2 of these boys, the provincial coordinators, were my assistants. And we already almost reached Africa Cup with the under-17 teams in 2007 and 9. So it was very tight. We didn't, but at the end of the day, what was important, we were developing the talent. In 2009, we had an under-20 tournament, the Africa Cup, where they narrowly missed the qualification for the World Cup. But still, we were producing national team player after national team player. So all the national team players until this day are coming from this period. The national team players, they are now at the end of 20, 30 years old, but they come all from this period. And the biggest project was then in 2009-10. We were looking for under 15 players, 14, 15-year-old boys, to prepare them for the under 17 in 2011. 2011 in January, February was the under 17 Africa Cup in Rwanda. And my friend and my colleague from France, who was the coach, Richard Tardy, he led the team to the World Cup in Mexico in 2011. So this was like my bye-bye gift, was like to prepare this group for the federation and to have them with Richard to reach the World Cup in Mexico. Sensation. It was, this doesn't happen so often, you know, but I told them before, bring the tournament to Rwanda. Try to bring the tournament to Rwanda, the Africa Cup, then we have a chance to qualify for the World Cup. So it happened. That was really good. Another short episode is the women's football. At the time, we were told from the German FA, particularly at this period, to especially promote women's football. And Rwanda is like dictated from leaders who come from the genocide periods, generals from the army, and they all were very not so positive about it, you know, and quite of reluctant to bring the women to the football. But there were 3-4 women who were in the federation. One coach, Coach Grace, and Marie-Louise Remelka, I think her name. She was like the women, very strong for the women's development in general. And football was a tool also to get the groups together, to get the two tribes together. So what we did, we were scouting and training and playing. And in 2008, I think in October, November, the first game, national team game of the women in Rwanda, in a fully packed stadium against Uganda, the arch rival, next door neighbor. I was crying when they went on the pitch, these girls, to see that. Honestly, I don't have such a good affinity to the women's football, but I respect it. And as myself and the federation to start the women's football in Rwanda, it was a really nice episode of my time in Rwanda. Okay, that was in brief the pillars: coaches education, youth development, women's football, and the youth national teams. All in all, in a fantastic cooperation with the German FA, it was a beautiful project, I must say.
So, you know, like after that, later on, you even were in the running for the Rwanda national team coach job. But for some reason, it did not happen. Could you shed some light on it? What happened?
That is kind of a delicate matter, which in a way shows how the football is, you know. It's like you cannot grasp it, you know, you cannot understand it sometimes. I cannot comprehend it. I left Rwanda in 2011. Immediately after Rwanda, I took over Philippine national team. And during my Philippine time, every year once I went to go to Rwanda. Try to maintain a good relationship with the leaders. And I said, look, I worked 4 years for you. I think very successfully. It would be very interesting also to maybe take, after when eventually Philippines will be over, I would be interested to come back. Okay, the people knew that. But some people in the federation, they were a little bit taken aback from my style, because I was very kind of dominant type, you know. I said very clearly, we want to do it like this. And I was not the compromise type too much, you know. And then if you as a coach or as a director, you are indirectly attacking generals who went through war, you know. You are indirectly attacking, or I don't want to say insult, but you are, some will not see you in a positive light. So in 2015, I was after Philippines and after Romania, I was in Germany. And then there was the new coach to be, so many people applied, 100 people. And there was a short list of 4 people. Myself, I was in the short list, and Jose Moraes, who was a former assistant coach from Jose Mourinho in Inter and in Inter Milan and Chelsea. And then it was Engin Firat, a coach who had some success in Germany and who is now a national team head coach in Moldavia. You know him. And the last one was a young boy from Northern Ireland, I think. No? Northern Ireland, Belfast, yes. I think McKinstry is his name. Okay, I thought, yeah, of the four, I have the experience in Rwanda. I thought, okay, I should stand a good chance. Okay, I talked with the people and I didn't hear from them. I haven't heard anything. I was in Rwanda. I had interviews with the media. What happened? Not Michael Weiß and not Engin Firat and even not Jose Moraes, the former assistant from Mourinho, got the job. The 29 or 30-year-old boy from Northern Ireland got the job. I called the people. I called my boys. I said, what's going on there? What is this? Nobody could give me an answer. So that was the situation about Rwanda. I don't want to comment on that, but it was maybe kind of payback time from some people to tell me, Coach, sorry, this is our answer to some of the things maybe that didn't run so perfectly on the personal level. I don't know. So I didn't get a job, and of course I was. For me, it would have been fantastic after Rwanda, then to pick up the Rwandese, after Philippines to pick up Rwanda, where I knew everything. Actually, I didn't need any time to adjust. I could just follow up what I've done 3-4 years ago. But it wasn't supposed to be, and it is football. You have to respect. You cannot force people to take you if they have other ideas.
So, after the Rwanda technical director job, you went to Philippines where you worked wonders with the team in all the competitions in regards to maybe World Cup qualifications or maybe even Challenge Cup. So, how was your time in Philippines? You were only there for around, I think, 4 years. How was it?
I was there starting in February 2011. So I hopped from Rwanda directly. I had a short stop in Germany. I met the team manager, Dan Palami, and Jojo Rodriguez, his assistant. And I was selected through an internet portal called Spox from a German internet, how can I say, sports magazine somehow. And they made a big advertisement, coach for the Philippines. We are looking for a coach for Philippines. And then from all the countries, Italy and Germany and Austria and Switzerland, I think 100 people applied, and then I was on the short list. There was an interview in January, February in Frankfurt, and I was the contender for the final spot. Then I talked with the team manager, Dan Palami, who is until today still the team manager of the team, runs the team, bankrolls the team, pays for everything, and invested a lot of money. A very nice person. And we shook hands and decided to make the contract. So I packed my stuff and go end of January, go to the Philippines. Start immediately with the training because we're having AFC qualifier against Mongolia. Imagine how funny that is, So the problem was we played on February 9, Bacolod in the Philippines, 30 degrees. And 1 month after, in March, on the 9th of March, we were playing in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, minus 20 degrees. So even though probably with the import of many new foreign players, or let's say half Philippine players, we were the favorite for the game, but because of the disadvantage of the second game being in a harsh condition in Ulaanbaatar, and 3,000 enthusiastic Mongolians screaming loudly with vodka to get a little bit warmer in minus 20 degrees. We needed to plan carefully these things. Yeah. I decided to manage to get a camp in Japan together with Palami and Mr. Araneta, the president, in order to make the gap from 30 degrees. In Japan, it was 7 degrees at that time. Yeah. You would feel, I mean, a person who come from hot countries, it's ice cold, really ice cold. It's sunshine, it's 7 degrees, but it feels like minus 5 or 10. So it was very good for the Filipinos to go there from 30 degrees, and they were like walking around with their caps and ice and couldn't even run properly. But these 7-8 days helped us a lot in March. Unfortunately, we were witness of the tsunami at that time. On the 11th of March, on my birthday, in 2011, there was this terrible tsunami. We were a witness of that, and it was a sad story for my family, also for my wife, of course. Well, nevertheless, we had to move on. We win the game in Bacolod 2-0 and went to Ulaanbaatar on 15 of March was the game. After 4 minutes, we scored 1-0, James Young husband. So I thought the game was in our hands. But you could feel our players could not adapt to this ice-cold weather. They were always a little bit late. And we got the 1-1 after 30 minutes and the 2-1 before halftime, after a penalty. My God, I thought if they score 2 more goals, we are out of the competition. What can I do? You know, so in halftime, I told the boys, guys, play very compact, play very aggressive, try to push up as much as you can, try to not give them chances. Because in the moment when we receive their 3rd goal, it will be like really, they will probably, at the end of the game, they will probably also play the score the 4th goal, and we are out. So to cut a long story short, we succeeded. The game was 2-1, and we went to the next round for the Challenge Cup, which was actually already Myanmar, and we managed to become 2nd in the group after Palestine, and went to the main tournament, which was in Nepal in 2012. So, but that later, okay. Then we had a tournament coming, the World Cup qualifiers against Sri Lanka, your neighbor country, in July. Went for a camp in Germany. I organized everything with my friend from the Japan time. I know Gerd Engels, he was an organizer of camps also in Germany. We went there, had a nice camp, had many nice good test matches, and we're happy to beat Sri Lanka. We played Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka 1-1 and on home soil 4-0. So went to the 2nd round and played Kuwait, and lost in Kuwait 3-0 and home 1-2. But it was a euphoria, it was a enthusiasm in the Philippines. It was like crazy. People were fighting for tickets. The stadium was sold out. Every game was sold out. When we came with a bus, we were like pop stars, or the players were like pop stars, not me. I was just on the side, yeah. But I was managing to get new players. Because in Philippines, it's like half of the boys, most of them have a Filipina mother. And in the worldwide, many Filipinos go and are working as overseas workers. They call them FOW, Filipino overseas workers, FOW. So many girls go, they work as house girls mostly, or helpers in any country in the world, name it, Filipinos are there. Then we took advantage of that. We took players from the Netherlands, we took players from Denmark, Jerry Lucena, a fantastic player, Dennis Kagara, who played in the 2nd league in Germany, Stefan Schröck, who was from Germany, and father German, mother Filipina. So we took advantage of this and took these players from the professional or up to the third, fourth league, and we made strong team. So Philippines got better and better and better and better during my time. They were always men. Now we initiated the scouting system, and I had 2-3 people looking worldwide. We had a worldwide scouting net, especially also with one scout from Germany, Mr. Schunk, Alfons Schunk. He helped us a lot, particularly in the German area, German, Switzerland, Austria. We found many good players. So this is what we did in 2011, 2012, going to the Challenge Cup in Nepal. We were in a group with Tajikistan, North Korea, and I think Nepal or Turkmenistan. Cut a long story short, we went into the semi-final, and we lost. We were leading 1-0 until 90 minutes, until 80 minutes, and lost in the last 10 minutes 2-1 against Turkmenistan. Finally, we become third, beat Palestine. So it was a next step in our preparations. The team gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and was in 2012 in May, I think. And then in the Southeast Asian region, we have the Suzuki Cup. I don't know if you know about the Suzuki Cup.
I
You know
like,
the Suzuki Cup?
little bit. I don't follow it, but I have heard about it.
Yeah. The Suzuki Cup is in Southeast Asia is the tournament #1, because you have Malaysia, you have Indonesia, you have Vietnam, you have Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Cambodia, Laos. All these teams in the region, they play the Suzuki Cup. And when I came to the Philippines in 2011, they were just coming from the Suzuki Cup. The first time in the history, they reached the semi-final. So they beat Vietnam on home soil. It was a big sensation in 2010. It was a worldwide, was recognized very much, though, the start of the Philippines coming on the international level. So we prepared, and the team manager, Palami, always give good camps in Bahrain, in Qatar. We played in Laos, we played in Cambodia. We had a very good preparation. We had a tournament in September called the Peace Cup, and won the title against Guam, Chinese Taipei, and Macau, which was the first time in the history after a long time. It was not a big title, but it was good for the development of the team in itself, and it was good for the confidence of the team. The team was growing. We had many players coming from all over the world who were interested to play for Azkals. Azkals is the name of the team. It's called Street Dogs. So we were calling ourselves, or the national team is called Azkals, which is a funny side note. Yes, so we went into the tournament in 2000. Got a famous keeper coach from Switzerland, Pascal Zuberbühler. They gave me him as a keeper coach. He was a very good help, apart from my local staff of Filipino group. We had a very strong group together, and win the group in the first round, and then played the semi-final against Singapore. In Manila 0-0, and unfortunately lost in Singapore 1-0. So we didn't reach the final, but we did the same thing that they did in 2010. We established Philippines in the best four in Southeast Asia, which was a big success, I would say. Everybody was a little bit down, not reaching the final, because they thought, we can quickly go and beat all these established nations, but it wasn't supposed to be like that. By the way, Singapore beat Thailand in the final, so we were going out against the winner of the tournament. So yeah, that was 2012. Then 2013 in March we had again the Challenge Cup. I renewed my contract. But already there were some voices who thought, okay, maybe Coach Weiß, 2 years is enough. We have to look for a new coach. Palami gave me his back, because Palami was the main decider on this issue. So he wanted to keep the group together for March. Again, we made a very strong group. All the players came. Stefan Schröck came. Patinho came. Patinho is a player who played later in the Thai league and in China very successfully. A goal-getter, what we needed. So we win the tournament on home soil. We beat Turkmenistan the first time, which was a strong team at that time. I mean, Turkmenistan, I don't need to tell you, is a strong team. And we were happy to reach the Challenge Cup finals, because the Challenge Cup at that time, in 2014, was determining one team, the winner, to go to the Asia Cup in 2015 in Australia. So I was preparing the team throughout 2013, but things already got a little bit strange. No payments. I called Palami for meetings. He didn't respond, and there was a promise on the side. We had him and me a private, personal promise, which he didn't keep, unfortunately. So things got a little bit, in Japanese they say gucha gucha. It get a little bit not messy, but not perfect anymore. Yeah, and then at the end of this year, in Bacolod, actually, where we played Mongolia, Palami said, "Okay, Mike, I want to make a change, and but I will think again over the Christmas period." Then I came back in 2014 in January, and then I was officially relieved of my duties. So that was the Philippine episode, which I must say, for myself and for my future career, it was the perfect jumping board for my family. My family was able to live with me there. I must say, looking back, it was a beautiful time. We had helpers, we had drivers, we had security, we had everything. It was like really top provided from Palami and the PFF. So I can only be thankful. Even it ended a little bit with a sour note, and I think if I had continued with the team until the Maldives, I would have brought the team to the Asia Cup. I'm very sure, because the new coach thought he needed to make some changes in the team, so the social interaction between the players got a little bit disturbed from the decisions he made, I would say, from looking from outside and listening to what the players said, because I still was in good contact with the players. And many players said, "Coach, if we had continued with you, we would have gone to the Asia Cup." So I don't know how to judge that, and it's past. We don't need to look back. I relished the times, and I love the times in the Philippines very much, and I'm still in contact with the people, and who knows what the future will bring. That was the Philippine episode, in brief.
So, after Philippines, you moved to Europe to a club level. You went to Otelul Galati, which was at one time one of the best, or a Champions League team, one of the top teams in Europe. And where things probably did not go how you wanted it to pan out. Do you look back with regrets how things ended in Otelul?
Well, honestly, it was, for me, this was the big chance to go on the without disrespect to the developing countries' football, but it was a big chance for me to go in the big stage, in the comparatively big stage, into the real football professional world in Europe. Meaning, if I could use this opportunity for myself in a renowned club, they played in 2012 in the Champions League against Manchester United in Bucharest. They played against FC Basel, and at the time when they asked me to join the club, they were like almost close to bankruptcy, and but for me it was such a big chance. After Philippines, immediately I couldn't turn it down. So I got in contact with an agency, and one guy of the agency, Andrei Rusu, a Romanian guy who lived in Germany a long time, he said, "Michael, you take the team, You bring an assistant, and we give you the players as much as we can, and you try your best. It will be tough, but I said, okay, I will do it, because it was a big chance for me. Okay, we had a training camp in Slovakia, and we prepared the team very well. The players were not good, we must say that, but I tried maximum to make them fit and to prepare them for the league. We had the first game in Dinamo Bucharest, lost 4-0, and for me it was as hurtful as it was, but it was still a fantastic experience, to be on European level. Cannot compare to Southeast Asian football or African football. It was different, yeah. So to cut a long story short, we managed to after the 4th-5th game, we played a Rapid Bucharest home. We beat them, and then we had 2-3 draws, and the manager left. The manager left. A new manager came, and from the first day, I was feeling, okay, this is not how it's supposed to be, And they were just waiting when they could take us out or me out. And then it happened after 4 months. They said, okay, they took one. I gave the team, after a long trip, I gave them 2 days off, because I thought they needed to relax and they needed to recover and reload their batteries. They said, how can you not train? And, they made some allegations about this. So that was the short but very interesting episode in Galati. But the country, Romania, it was a super experience for me. I stayed after that. I stayed another 1 month and was traveling around a little bit to see the countries. It was a good experience. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I had an offer now in to go back to Cyprus in January, also for the first league club in Cyprus. Cyprus is also quite okay level, yeah. But I couldn't, because I was still in negotiation with Mongolia to finish the job, so I could not take this offer. So that would be interesting maybe for the future. If this coronavirus hadn't happened, maybe I would have thought to go back to Europe in one country and start again. But we don't need to elaborate more on that. After that, I had a break in 2015. And in 2015, there was worth mentioning. I got a call from one of the biggest managers in football in Germany, Thomas Groth. Thomas Groth is the manager of Manuel Neuer, and Thomas Groth was is still renowned for cooperation with Japan. He brought Shinji Kagawa to Dortmund years ago, and then later to Manchester United. So he's very famous for his Japan connection. So I was, of course, I'm still with my wife, but we travel, and even though we went back to Japan in 2014, I lost a little bit interest of Japan because it was not my world anymore. But Thomas called me in 2015, you want to become assistant manager from Felix Magath. Felix Magath? You know Felix Magath?
Yeah.
Felix
He was Fulham manager. Fulham.
Exactly.
He won with, I think he was the last. He won the league with Wolfsburg, right? Or Werder Bremen.
However, he was a big manager in Germany. He was in Bayern Munich 2 years. He was champion 2 times with them. He was champion with Wolfsburg, very surprisingly. Yeah. And in Wolfsburg, he took my player from Kunimi, Okubo, the one I mentioned earlier. Thomas, I had recommended him to Thomas Groth, to the agent, so they took him to Wolfsburg. And Magath was interested to go to Japan eventually, and we met in Fukuoka here in 2015, and I would have been perfect for me at the time. Yeah. At the same time, I was in the running for the Malaysia national team job. So, cut a long story short, in this period in December, when I was about to get a new job, both opportunities failed for one or the other reason. So this is the life of the manager also. I was a little bit depressed because particularly that the chance to work with Magath and the J-League would have opened doors again for me coming back to Japan. So it wasn't supposed to be. Already in October in 2015, I was in Mongolia because they requested particularly for me. And I had a nice meeting with Mr. Gambata, who is actually, I can only have best words for him. He was the best president I have worked so far with. Very friendly man, not very knowledgeable of football, but very supportive in the things I did, and a big pillar and a big important part for my success in Mongolia, I would say. So we met in 2015, and I introduced some programs for them. They wanted to have me immediately, but then we didn't somehow, in the course of the beginning of 2016, we didn't agree on the conditions of the contract. I went to Africa again, to the neighbor country of Rwanda, to the best club there in Burundi, Vitalo, made a new group, was advisor for the national team and for the president of the Football Federation in Burundi for 3-4 months. Okay, things didn't work out for one or the other reason. The sponsor cut off his payments. I left, and then come back to Japan and discussing with Mongolia again. And then end of 16, I met Mongolia President Mr. Gambata again, and Mongojingo, the head of international relations in Tokyo, and we made a contract.
So, like your last job in football was in Mongolia, like you said, your last thing. Because of that, you also lost a lot of maybe potential job openings, like you said, in January, where you're in negotiation. But the one thing that we do not associate, or people do not know much, at least I do not know much about Mongolia, is football there. How is the quality of football in Mongolia, or how are the infrastructure? What were you shocked when you went to Mongolia?
It was like really landing on another planet. It was from the one side, let me go to the private life, let me go to the nature, let me go to the different environment. They call Mongolia sunny Mongolia because in Mongolia around 250 days of the year you have sunshine. You have pure sunshine. It's always nice, but it's ice cold for most parts of the year. I came there, and you have to be very careful because all of a sudden a strong wind comes, the temperature go down 10 degrees, and you always have long underwear. I always had long, I had to protect myself, gloves, and always scarves and a hat. Have to be prepared for this. That was the one part. Yeah, you have food, but you don't have lots of vitamin food because they cannot plant these things there. You need all imported fruits, oranges, or who take a long way until to come there. So that was a little bit of a minus, but it was okay. It was okay. I lived in a very nice apartment in a luxurious luxury flat, I must say. I had a housekeeper also, so it was, from that part, it was good. Football, we started with the under 23s and with the under 19. I was responsible in my contract. I was like the man, I was national team coach and under 23 coach. The first assignment was with the under 23 in July in Thailand. I started in March. The decision was made to come there in January, started in March, and first was under 23. The next was the under 19, and at the same time, watch all potential candidates for the national team. Down to the under 16, I was responsible for everything. So it was a big thing, and Mr. Gambata and the executive committee, they wanted me to make a blueprint, to make a red line from the national team down to the under 16s. Yeah, we did that, and we were having a good game in Thailand. We played 1-1 in Thailand with the under 23. We got a little bit recognition. We started with the national team first game in October in Taiwan. We lost, but made a nice game. So things went on. Had a camp in Kunming in 2018. they gave us a lot of preparation camps all over Asia. We went to Japan, Okinawa for a camp. We went to Mokpo in South Korea for a camp. We went to Kunming twice. So because we had to overcome the cold weather. I remember in 2018, we had a 2 weeks camp in March in Kunming. And before we could only train indoors because minus 30 degrees. We trained indoor 40 meters long, 20 meters wide with 30 players for a period of 1 month. And we managed, after the camp in Kunming, we go to Malaysia, and Malaysia, best players, all top fit after a good preparation, and we managed to play 2-2. You know, these were the small success stories in Mongolia, which we developed further and further and further. Then with the national team in 2018, it was a focus year. We had, similar to Rwanda, I said, President, you have the East Asian Federation Championships, bring them to Mongolia, the first round. And they did that. And never Mongolia had won this first round tournament, because the winner of the first round goes to the second round and meets Hong Kong and Chinese Taipei and North Korea. So we were host of the preliminary tournament in Mongolia in 2018 in September, and we won the tournament against Guam, Macau and Northern Mariana Islands. So everybody very happy, first time in the history, like I did in Philippines, you know, it's the same thing. So we reached that. In the second round we got hammered, but we have all these experience to become stronger and stronger and stronger. So the real target was then in 2019 in the World Cup qualifiers. Because in Asia, you have the least ranked 12 nations in the ranking. They play playoffs in order to reach the best 40 nations on the continent. So we were preparing for that and were drawn in the toss against Brunei Darussalam. Okay, I said, okay, we play in Brunei. It's a hot country. We need a preparation camp in a humid conditions. So I had a good contact with a resort in Thailand, in Phuket. Steve Wallace was the manager. He got in touch with me. He said, Michael, come make a nice preparation camp for the Brunei games. Come here, prepare 2 weeks. I give you a special discount. So I helped the federation, you know, to not being in the need to spend a lot of money. We went there, had good preparation matches, get used to the hot weather, and then played the first game home against Brunei. And we're happy after 9 minutes. Everybody very shaky, very nervous, because you needed to win the game. If you don't win the game against Brunei, you know, all the work of 3 years or 2.5 years would have been, I wouldn't say in vain, but that was the target. June 2019. So after 9 minutes, free kick, and my captain, he scored a direct goal after 9 minutes. Very happy, stadium full. No mouse could fit in the stadium anymore. Everybody very happy. And then we needed another goal and scored after 70 minutes. So with a 2-0 lead, we go to Brunei Darussalam. And even I knew it could be complicated, but I thought we were stronger, we were more sound, we were fitter. I thought we will manage. Not easily, but it was a tough game, I'm telling you. It was a crazy game in Brunei. The team somehow was a little bit tired from the trip and had again difficulties because in Mongolia it was 10-15 degrees, windy, and we get back to the hot weather. And the players always, over the periods of these 3 years, in the end it got a little bit better, but we always had problems with hot weather. So in Brunei it was 30 degrees, hot, very humid, and okay, game day. After 30 minutes, the keeper had a totally catastrophic game, 2-0 behind. Even. we were even. After 33 minutes, 3-0, but the goal was disallowed. Panic on the bench. I was panic, I must say. I was like, I didn't know what to do. What is this? I thought, hey, what? Are you crazy? Can you not get your ass together and be compact, try to play simple, and then also on the pitch, all the leaders, the older ones, everybody complained to each other. My gosh, I was like, I didn't know what to do. 2-0 halftime. I discussed with the assistant. And I had one player on the bench who was the former captain of the national team. And I took him. He was a little bit aging. He was 32, 33 years old, Garida. And I said, Garida, come here. Now in halftime, because this is a very, very delicate situation. You are on the verge, you were on the verge to qualify for the first time in the history of the football in Mongolia for the second round in the World Cup qualifiers, yeah? And you don't want to go out against Brunei, with all respect to Brunei. They were strong at that day, but normally we should be better. I give a few instructions, and you take over and take the team in your hands and push them that in the second half we can proceed. We did it. I hug everybody. I say, hey guys, now be serious, okay? 2.5 years of our work is on the edge, Be serious. I mean, not to say they were not serious, but they were too nervous. They were too shaky. I changed the keeper. The keeper had a disaster day. I needed to bring an experienced keeper, and he saved the game. So 5 minutes in the second half, we got a totally correct penalty. My captain, again, he scored many important goals, Zedembal. And at the end of the day, we lost 2-1, but we managed to go through. So all the media and in Mongolia, president, everybody congratulated, everybody happy. And we managed to go through. And with this event, my contract, I had a clause in my contract which automatically renewed until the end of the second round for a 50% higher salary. So that was a very crucial thing, because 50% higher of already a comparatively high salary for Mongolian standard. And I think when the people signed, the general secretary and the president, they signed the contract the year before, the extension of the first year contract, they didn't read this clause properly. So I come back and I write official letter. I said, my contract is renewed. Thank you very much. I'm very happy. I'm positive for the qualifiers. We need this. My contract is automatically renewed. So they check the contract and they see, my gosh, we have to pay 50% more salary. So I come back, and from day one, they attack me and they were a little bit mean, and try to push me down. The president was on one hand on my side, but on the other side, many executive committee members said, Weiß must go. Imagine after a success like this, the coach must go. So at the end of the day, I was firm. I said, look, this is my contract. If you want me out, you have to pay me out for 1 year. Otherwise, we do like this. So they needed to accept that, and we continue. Went to a camp in Hungary in August to go against very strong teams from second and third league in Hungary. Was a super test for us. Come back in September, and we beat Myanmar. So it was a perfect start. And then we played Tajikistan. We lost 1-0 last 8 minutes, unfortunately. We played in Japan. Imagine the home country of my wife, and with my story in Japan, we lost 6-0, but 50,000 people, unforgettable memory for me forever. It was, we played Minamino and Nakashima and Yoshida and Nagatamo, all these top players played. It was a super experience. We lost 6-0, of course. I mean, Mongolia against Japan, please. 6-0 is actually a good result. Yeah. Then we had the last game in November in Myanmar. Unfortunately, lost 1-0. And then there was always problem with the payment. There was always some negativity around these payments, you know. So I was saying bye-bye after the Golden Ball in December. The Golden Ball is an award ceremony in Mongolia. The president allowed me to go home after this, and I was thinking, look, I bring so much to this country. You know, we reach so many milestones. I bring so many new players, young players in the team, and the people are still not happy for that because they complain about the high salary and ABC. So I gave them some options, and okay, they said, okay, maybe at this point of time, it's better to limit the costs also, and to find another way after Michael Weiß, after the success Michael Weiß and Mongolia together created. So we amicably separated ways at the end of January. The president said, Michael, see this only as a short period. I know my people, after a while, we will try to bring you back. I said, President, thank you very much for your kind words. Let's see what the future brings. So, and then at the last day when I left, already they closed the borders because of the pandemic. They heard of some cases of the corona. It was 28th of January when I left, one day before the birthday of my daughter, Matilda, who turned 12. And that's when the pandemic started. And that's where this is the difficult situation we are in now. Mongolia was very clever. They started very early to close the borders in order not to have people coming in and transporting the virus. They were very clever, I must say, really. Particularly, they closed the border to China, which is their neighbor country, which is the main export country. They put their coal and oil or whatever to. So they didn't have many cases, but the life was like dead from end of January until now. It's like almost like nothing. I'm still in contact, in good connection. Talked with the president a month ago, and we are still in good terms. That was Mongolia.
So, now we'll move on. We have spoken a lot about your experience, what you have gone through from when you started to Mongolia, which was your last job. Now I wanted to talk more about how you see football. What is your coaching philosophy like?
Oh, that's a big tema. No? But I wanna put it in brief. First of all, I think mainly if I summarize the bigger picture, I worked in 3 countries, namely Rwanda for 4 years, in the Philippines for 3 years, and 3 years in Mongolia. That is 10 years in 3 countries. So I come back to the coaching philosophy a little bit later, but what I want to say is, if you work nowadays 10 years in 3 countries only, for me this is a proof of a kind of trust from the partners, trust from the federation, trust from the presidents, because normally it's like, 3 months here, 6 months there, you don't leave anything behind. There's many managers running around. I ask myself, how can they get jobs? They go there, they do nothing, they go to the next, they do nothing. So for me, even I work in smaller countries, but any country you can go for, definitely I left a legacy, really legacy. And this is important for me, to get the trust from people. Even a small nation like Mongolia with no infrastructure, namely, and little players only, 6 months you cannot train outside. I bring to a certain level where I can compete even with Japan. So the philosophy is clear. First of all, you need the physical precondition to play on this level. That doesn't mean physical training only, but the physique together with the ball is a prerequisite. Very important. You have to see, secondly, what kind of players do you have? For instance, in the Philippines, in Rwanda, the same like in Mongolia. I first look for the defensive setup, for a compactness. And in this compactness, it doesn't matter if you play 3-5-2, 4-1-4-1, which I personally prefer, 4-3-3, which is a similar system like this, or 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2 flat. It doesn't matter. Important is that the back line, the midfield, and the striking department is working cohesively in a block, is cohesively moving to the side, is making it tight in the middle, and is approaching aggressively the build-up already of the teams. This is how I disturbed Tajikistan, Myanmar, and Kyrgyzstan on our home soil with this tactic, you know. We didn't want to sit deep. We were following a midfield pressing and trying already to disturb their build-up, because all the nations, they are no long kickers, you know. They try to play football, keeping it on the ground, not exactly tiki-taka, but nowadays it's a little bit negative if you play long ball football. But I tell you about long balls later. So with all these underdog teams, you first have to make sure that you don't get hammered. You know, so I lost 2-1 against Kyrgyzstan, unlucky. I lost very unlucky against Tajikistan. We lost in Myanmar, very unlucky. A draw at least would have been fair, yeah. But of course, when it comes to scoring, which is the difficult part, it's a different story. That needs to be developed in order to be on this level. If we are playing now Macau, if we are playing now Mariana Islands, Guam, small Bangladesh, all these teams, we will score. But against the bigger teams, of course, it's very hard to score. So these things come in place in the later stages of the development. So if you see the Philippines in year 1, year 2, year 3, become better, become cohesive, become better in the striking department. In my last year, we were beating Cambodia comfortably, 8-0. We were beating Turkmenistan, nations which we hadn't beaten before. In Mongolia, the same, starting with the young ones, integrating the players in the team, building up from the defensive part into the offensive side, training set pieces, winning games, more and more and more, development goes up. In Rwanda, it was the same. So this is about my philosophy, which I would describe as a technically sound football with 1-2 touch, fast play, interchanging of positions. So I look for technically sophisticated football based upon a strong physical, how can I say, precondition. So if the physique is good, if the players can run, if the players can play the pressing style, I look a lot on the pressing side. Do I press early? Do I press in the midfield? I never sit back. Even in Japan, we didn't sit back. We sit back, yes, of course, but we tried also to press them in the middle zone, but they were so fast and they go from the sides, they bring the crossballs. It's just a different level. But apart from the first 8 nations in Asia, I'm confident if I had continued with Mongolia, we would have gone to the next step. Even I said to the President, if you keep me, or if we work together, if you give me the support in the next 2 years, we might have a small chance to go to the Asia Cup. And I'm confident because I know what I'm doing, even with a small Mongolia. So this is a part of my philosophy. Of course, it's different when you come to a club in the J2, in the second league of the J League, and you have the ambition to go up. You have the right players. You buy the players that fit in your system, and then you develop them. I have the confidence, absolutely, that if a team gets me here now in the third or in the second league, I can bring them up to the next level. Because I always did that in every country where I was. So I'm very confident on that part.
So, on that note, I wanted to ask you one question, okay, which you seem quite bothered about. Like, you just mentioned, countries or teams are hiring coaches who do not have history. And also, when you were in contention for the Rwanda job, a, a candidate who won the job was against all odds. What do you have to say? Why are the teams or nations hiring them?
This is a difficult question, yeah. This is actually a question you have to ask the leaders in the federations. What I want to say, or what I feel, is that if we are talking about a national team, the national team represents a country. If you represent a country, you have, as a leader, as the head coach, you have to get the best possible person, in my opinion. That can be a local. In many cases, in the developing and emerging countries, it's a foreigner. So if you bring a foreigner, you have to have a foreigner, in my opinion. This is really my personal opinion. Somebody who has the expertise and the knowledge already and has a proven track record. Like, for instance, Stephen Constantine. Stephen Constantine was in Nepal, he was in India, did a fantastic job 2 times. He was in Rwanda, they love him in Rwanda. He actually inherited Richard and my work and brought them to the Africa Cup, but because of a player who was not supposed to play there from Congo, they were eliminated. But they have only good words for Stephen Constantine. There's others who I could mention, yeah. Maybe I'm one of them. But there's also people who get jobs on this level who didn't have even an A license. And coaches who are training with licenses or with no licenses, or they are sneaking into the AFC and getting the A license like from the side, would never get the license in their home country. Where others made the license through hardship over years, even having a hard time in Germany to come into the A for myself, not to talk about the pro license. Then I end up in a place in Africa or Asia or in Oceania or wherever, and somebody comes sneaking around from the back door and get a job. I don't have the answer. Just I would recommend, and I also said this to some people in the technical committees in the AFC. I said you have to do something about it. You have to honor the national teams. National team jobs, coaching jobs. You have to have pro license coaches, but not pro license coaches. Foreigners who made their pro license in Asia or in the CAF in Africa, they have to have the pro license from their country, because that means that this country has supported this candidate, and this candidate went through a thorough process over the years to get the pro license. The pro license is not something you can. The pro license costs you $30,000. So how can somebody who invested time, who risked football for his life, how can somebody compete with a B license coach who come from the side because from coincidence he knows one player of a national team and they invite him? I cannot give you the answer. You can answer yourself maybe.
So okay, so we'll move on to a last question, okay, before we end the interview. And it has been quite long, like listening to you. It was very insightful along the way. So the last question, I think it will be even more difficult for you, and this is quite a challenging question for many people, okay, and it's very easy. I'll put it out this way: whom do you prefer, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo?
From an aesthetical point of view and from a genius point of view, from the love that I share for the game of football, it's Lionel Messi. Because Messi makes things and make movements which you cannot describe. From physical development and from a willpower point of view and from the value of the teams he played for, and Ronaldo is on the same level like Messi, you know. It's I think it's unfair in a way to describe, not to compare the two people. I would give them both a big applause, and I wouldn't want to choose between one, but from the aesthetical point of view and from the genius, from the ideas, from the things which you've never seen before, it's Messi.
So, you know, on that note, Hans, thank you so much for talking to me. It was very insightful. I got to know a lot of things, and even probably our listeners will learn a lot about you from your experience. Young coaches will take inspiration from it, and I wish you all the best for your next job, wherever it is. And I wish you can, you know, improve them like how you have improved Mongolia or Philippines or any other team in your past. So best of luck for that, and hope we can talk again soon. Take care.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk to you. It's a pleasure to talk to a boy, a young growing football professional, and also in the running before the interview, very friendly, very positive. I appreciate it. Please, I wish you all the best, and for your further interviews and for your personal life also. Take care, stay safe.
Thank you.